Hi, my name is Debbie Stover, and my presentation is on aging out of the foster care system. The goals for this training are to evaluate the stats of children in foster care, to discuss the challenges that our children are facing as they age out of foster care, to evaluate Erikson's theory of development, to look at potential solutions at the macro level. We'll also talk about specific strategies for social workers in working with children in foster care. We're going to look at the potential solutions at the meso and macro levels, and then conclude. Before we get started, I want to take a few minutes to reflect back. Close your eyes and think about your senior year in high school. Some of those exciting things you thought about were being on your own. You got so excited as you thought about getting your senior pictures made, getting a class ring, getting your cap and gown. The most exciting thing for me, my senior year, was thinking about a party to celebrate. Silly pictures of things I'd done in my past when I was growing up that my mom took, displayed for everyone to see. All of my family and friends would be there. People I might not have seen in years. Now let's take a minute to look at this same time, but from a different perspective. Let's look at it from a foster child's eyes. For the purpose of doing this, let's give her a name. Let's say her name is Ashley. Ashley is so excited to be headed into her senior year. She's been thinking about this for a long time. No more school. Her foster parents bring up the idea of senior pictures. Yes, everyone loves getting their picture taken. Then Ashley brings up the idea of a class ring. They're expensive, but her foster parents say okay. The foster parents ask Ashley if she wants to have a party. Yes, everyone loves a party. The foster parents start gathering as many pictures as they can. Then the foster parents and Ashley sit down to develop a list of who she wants to invite. That's when Ashley begins to think. There have been more people in my life that have come and gone that I don't see anymore. Who am I going to invite? Who will be there to celebrate with me my accomplishments? Where will I go when it's over? A very different thought process from the two different kids. All right, I want to talk to you about some stats for children aging out of the foster care system. These stats are from 2006. 96% of children in the United States live with one or both parents. 1.4 million children are living with neither a parent or a grandparent. 40% of those children are in foster care. The number of children in foster care increased from 302,000 in 1980 to 556,000 in 2000. 30% of those children in foster care are teenagers. About 20,000 adolescents leave foster care each year because they turn 18. An issue of racial disparity among children in foster care is a growing national concern, and one that must be addressed in examining outcomes of children aging out of the foster care system. We also need to be careful when we're really looking at stats, because we need to not only evaluate children aging out of foster care, we need to look at how long they have been in the foster care system. That information will significantly affect them. Teens aging out of the foster care system have significant difficulties transitioning into independent living and self-sufficiency. Youth in foster care tend to be behind educationally compared to their peers. with as few as 33% graduating from high school. Youth entering foster care have been abused, neglected, and/or abandoned. Many were also exposed to poverty, parental substance abuse, violence in their homes and communities, and incarceration of a parent. These pre-foster care factors can increase the risk of foster care youth engaging in high-risk behaviors. However, their placement in foster care should also reduce some of their risks because they're removed from a high-risk environment and are provided good case management and services to address multiple needs that they have. Yet, it has not been demonstrated that this is sufficient. Indeed, there is some evidence that youth in foster care are more at risk than other youth with similar histories and constellations of risk factors. These create multiple challenges facing our children aging out of foster care. Let's talk about some of them. The first one I have is poor developmental outcomes. Adolescents and the child welfare system who experience frequent placement changes that create an unstable living environment. They tend to miss opportunities to learn independent living skills. Some examples of poor developmental outcomes are because children are leaving foster care and they're not prepared for those independent living skills that they missed or weren't taught. Some of those reasons could be the foster families have medical problems, the foster parents have medical issues. Maybe those are reasons why kids have to move from home to home. When you're moving from home to home, you miss those developmental times. Another reason that children may be moving from home to home is that the children are responding with elevated behaviors and the foster parents aren't prepared. Our responsibilities as parents are to prepare our children throughout their entire lives to be happy, healthy, and successful adults. When children move from family to family, there's a disconnect with the developmental skills that are taught to foster children. Here's some examples. We had a 13-year-old child in our home. Upon working with him for a while, we realized that he really did not know how to shower. This is something you would have thought a 13-year-old would have already developed that skill. Another example, we had a child come into care who was 15 years old. We had soup that night for dinner. He grabbed the bowl, picked it up to his mouth, and sipped on the soup. This is another small example of something that you would have thought a 15-year-old would know to use utensils. We worked with many teenagers, and all of them would always say, "I can't wait till I'm out of here. I can't wait to be done with foster care. The second I turn 18, I am out of here." But they had no idea how to pay for anything, where they were going to go. So many disconnects for them. Another challenge facing our children aging out of foster care is mental illness. 47% of adolescents in care had a disability condition, and 37% were clinically diagnosed as emotionally disturbed following discharge from foster care, which is much higher than the 12 to 15% that's estimated for the general youth population. Youth living with foster parents are more likely than children living with biological parents to have behavioral and emotional problems, problems in school adjusting, and to have poor physical and mental health. Mental health problems identified among foster youth include anxiety, depression, attention deficit disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and conduct disorder. Finally, the literature suggests that 3 factors strongly influence the mental health problems of foster youth: the number of placements that they're in, placement in kinship care, and age at when they entered into foster care. Young people with fewer placement changes who have been placed in kinship care and who are older at entering care are less likely than their counterparts to experience emotional and behavioral problems. Another concern that happens in foster care or a challenge is difficulties restoring relationships with biological parents. Some of our children have been in care for a very long period of time. Within that period of time, their parents' rights may have been removed. During that time, the children are in waiting, just waiting for the time that they can return to their biological parents. Their dream of returning to their parents is just that, a dream. They envision that their parents would have come to get them if they were not stopped by the system. They envision that there was a true misunderstanding, and that is why they were removed. Sometimes they're in denial of the true reason for being in care. We had a youth that was beginning to age out of the foster care system, and he was definitely returning home. His mom had always said that she would send him a bus ticket to come and live with her. They talked up until about a month before he was ready to go. All of a sudden, she stopped returning his phone calls. She didn't answer when he called. When he finally found a neighbor and called to find out where his mom went, she moved, and the neighbor didn't even know where she was. He was lost and scared. School failures is the next challenge that I want to address. Youth in foster care tend to be behind educationally compared to their peers, with as few as 33% graduating from high school at time of aging out. The national high school dropout rates in the United States ranges between 5% and 11%. Other studies have identified a number of factors that are negatively associated with age-appropriate educational achievement. These factors include placement instability, discontinuing in the educational experience, placement in an inpatient psychiatric facility, no significant improvement in the youth's mental health condition while in care, a history of physical abuse, and poor treatment while in care. One of the things I think about is I struggle really hard with test anxiety. I study really hard for something, and then knowing the test is coming in, I have studied everything. I'm ready to go, but as soon as I go to take the test, I cannot pull back that information that I know is there. Can you imagine if you were a foster child experiencing abuse and neglect prior, and you're in 3rd grade trying to retain how to write your letters and how to write in cursive and how to do those things? When you are being physically threatened and stressed, you cannot retain information. This makes schooling very difficult and sets them up to fail. The next one I want to talk about is substance abuse. Substance use are among the risk behaviors in which this population is susceptible, and engagement in these risky behaviors can create pathways to further vulnerabilities. Substance use is reported by about 25%, with about 15% having substance abuse or dependence disorders. The next one to think about is unemployment. I have a video to play for unemployment.
He did.